the receiving end of the renewed bombing of Aleppo. Thought to be alive when pulled from the rubble, this little boy's fate is unknown. In what's been described as the heaviest bombardment in days by Russian planes, at least 50 civilians were killed in Tuesday's airstrikes on rebel-held parts of the city and nearby villages, according to residents and rescue workers. In this neighbourhood of Bustan al-Qasa, locals said a medical centre and a children's playground were hit. The Syrian regime, backed by Russian airstrikes, is seeking the complete recapture of Aleppo, which has been divided between government and opposition control for years. In Hama province, state media says Syrian forces have won a series of victories against rebels in towns and villages turned into battlefields. Since Russia's intervention a year ago, President Assad's soldiers have gained the upper hand on numerous fronts.
This morning, investigators taking pictures and gathering evidence where the pilot who survived this fiery plane crash is now allegedly telling authorities this was no accident.
We got a fully involved aircraft on fire on Main Street.
The plane had taken off from an airport in Hartford, Connecticut, when just before 4 Tuesday afternoon, eyewitnesses say they saw the plane plunging into a busy street and taking down utility poles and power lines.
3 poles, when it hit the last one, it just boomed.
Power just went out and work, and then everyone just ran outside.
On the plane, a student pilot and an instructor. On the ground, the plane narrowly missing a van carrying a mother and her children and this man's car.
He hit a pole just behind me. Then he came in and landed, and I actually thought it was part of the plane that was falling off.
It's a very active area. Sidewalks were full, businesses were full, and a heavy amount of traffic. The fact that there weren't more casualties as a result of this incident is pretty amazing.
Now, the search for answers, police saying they asked the FBI to investigate because the plane went down near a Pratt & Whitney factory, calling it a critical infrastructure where jet engines for commercial, military, and general aviation are manufactured. Well, we learned today the plane had 2 control panels, and police have yet to determine who was actually flying the plane at the time of this crash. Also, when asked if this was being investigated as terrorism, police say they are not ruling anything out. Elizabeth Hur, ABC News, New York.
They were supposed to be attending Ashura, one of their holiest days. But this Wednesday, many Shiites in Kabul are mourning the dead. This was after at least one gunman opened fire on worshippers at Kabul's Kate Saki shrine on Tuesday evening. The wounded are being treated at hospitals across the city.
We were worshipping at the shrine when a man wearing a security uniform entered the compound and opened fire on people. It was a horrific situation and everyone was trying to escape.
The attacker was killing everyone, and he shot me on my leg. While I was hugging my little son, I begged him not to kill my child.
The child survived. There have been conflicting reports about the number of attackers involved. A government spokesman also said there was another attack later in the evening at a different location in Kabul. The threat level during Ashura was considered high, so many are surprised that more wasn't done to protect the worshippers.
After the attack, very well-equipped security forces reached the spot. I wish they would have used their weapons before the attack happened. That could have saved many lives.
In a statement, the Islamic State group have claimed responsibility for Tuesday night's attack.
All alone inside his wall of silence, Salah Abdeslam's lawyers, Sven-Marie and Franck Berton, will no longer represent him because the 27-year-old refuses to cooperate with French authorities. Berton told French media,
"He refuses to answer any questions from the anti-terrorist judge. I don't think he will have another lawyer. He doesn't want it anymore. Salah Abdeslam is giving up. It's like suicide, I fear."
Abdeslam was arrested on March the 18th in the Brussels neighborhood of Molenbeek. He was transferred to France in April to face terror charges. At the time, his lawyer Berton promised that his client was willing to face the Paris anti-terror judges.
Salah Abdeslam preferred to talk later, but insisted on the fact that he would indeed talk at some point. This is what he said to the judge when he was transferred.
Yet, at his first hearing in May, Abdeslam refused to talk and filed a complaint to lift 24-hour video surveillance of his prison cell. This was denied. 2 months later, he refused to leave his cell to attend his second hearing with anti-terror judges. And last month, he attended his third hearing, but once again refused to talk. Salah Abdeslam is the only surviving member of a group of militants who launched multiple attacks in Paris last November, killing 130 people. Investigators want to understand Abdeslam's exact role in the attacks, but his lawyers say that French authorities are trying to appease public opinion by keeping him imprisoned under inhumane conditions. His next hearing with anti-terror judges is scheduled for the end of November.
Let's get right to this breaking news. A little boy had to tell detectives who shot and killed his mother in the middle of the night. You're looking at a photo of who they think did it.
And in the fast 15 minutes, police confirm this photo we found is the man they're looking for. 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala is at the scene where police are searching right now. Mimi.
Yeah, guys, this photo is the suspect that they are searching for. This is Roderick Lamar Harris, 32 years old, was last seen in a blue Nissan Altima. Again, we are on Lake Murray Boulevard, Lake Arrowhead Drive. The caution tape is still up. Police are still actively searching the scene. Again, that 5-year-old son of the victim was the main witness who provided police with a statement. Now, this is video that you're watching right now of the father of the children picking up at least the 1-year-old. We haven't heard why the 5-year-old was not picked up yet, but that just happened moments ago. Police tell us all of this started when neighbors heard the victim and her boyfriend arguing. They then heard multiple gunshots. That's when they were called out and found the 29-year-old mother of the two shot dead inside of her home. Police say the boyfriend lived there with the woman and her 2 children. They're looking for him. Again, his name is Roderick Lamar Harris. He's a black man, 32 years old. Police say he took off from the scene in a blue Nissan Maxima with yellow dealer plates. Again, he is considered armed and dangerous, but police say if you do see him, you're encouraged to immediately call them. Again, blue Nissan Altima with yellow dealer plates. Reporting live in Lake Murray, Mimi Alcala, 10 News.
Thank you, Mimi. This is so urgent, it bears repeating. Once again, police looking for this man, Roderick Lamar Harris, described as black, 29 years old, drove away in a blue Nissan Maxima, yellow dealer plates. He is considered armed and dangerous, so please be careful. But if you see him, police are asking you to call them.
Mourners gather at the gates of one of Kabul's most important Shia shrines. They're crying because at least 14 worshippers were gunned down here on Tuesday as they gathered to pray. 36 people were wounded. A gunman dressed as a police officer got into the Kate Saki shrine and opened fire. A man dressed in military uniform opened fire indiscriminately on everyone, she says. Everyone ran away and I was trapped. He ran out of bullets and while he was loading more, I begged him, saying, "My 6-month-old child is innocent. Please don't kill us." The attack came just before 8 p.m. local time when the shrine was full of people celebrating the Shiite holy day of Ashura. Witnesses reported an explosion followed by gunfire. So far, no one has claimed responsibility.
A father stabbed at least 10 times, left to die in his own home. Right now, police have an all-out search for his killer, who managed to get away in City Heights.
And our 10 News reporter Emily Thode is live in City Heights with much more on this. Emily.
So it happened right here inside this apartment building. We're off 42nd Street near Dwight, and you can see they have crime scene tapes still around the front, and I can tell you also around the back. Police out back, inside, searching for clues. Police tell us that it was about 5:30 this afternoon when neighbors heard some commotion, some banging, a fight of some sort coming from inside the apartment. The neighbors called 911, and one of the neighbors went over to check on the man. At that same time, they say they saw a man, 19 to 25 years old, running away. He had stuff in his hand. He was wearing black shorts. They found the 45-year-old father inside his apartment clinging to life. He did end up passing away at that hospital. Police right now withholding the name of that father. We know he has a father of 2 sons. They're still searching for his killer. They do believe that his killer may have known the victim, may have been a family friend or a relative. So right now we know that that killer fled on foot, last seen jumping a fence here in City Heights. An all-out manhunt tonight. They're asking anyone in the area, if you see anything suspicious, to please call police. That's the scene from City Heights. Emily Tho, 10 News.
And in a breaking news update this morning, a man recovering after he was shot in East Tulsa. This happened during an armed robbery at the Shoreline Apartments. Those are near 21st and I-44. The victim was shot in the chest and hip. Officers are still looking for that suspect.
There were red faces in the American city of Little Rock when a controlled bridge implosion failed despite tons of explosives and repeated attempts. The 93-year-old structure refused to come down. Finally, 5 hours later, it collapsed into the
New this morning, a woman was killed late last night in what police are calling a domestic dispute. Happened off of Panola Road in DeKalb County.
A man was taken into custody and was being questioned at DeKalb Police Headquarters, which is where we find Good Day's Mark Teichner live with the story. Mark, good morning.
Hey, good morning to both of you. No word as to what, if any, charges this suspect is going to face, but police on the scene did give out an indication of what they are looking at possibly putting in front of him.
We're looking at possible murder charges.
Police say it started as a late-night argument. Things escalated first to violence, then gunfire. Now a woman is dead and her boyfriend in custody. DeKalb officers found the victim when they arrived at the Fontaine West condo complex off of Panola Road.
The male soldier standing outside stated that a female was shot inside his apartment. Our officer went inside, saw the female, suffered from a gunshot wound, and she succumbed to her injuries.
Police say the 39-year-old woman died as a result of a domestic dispute and accuse her 40-year-old boyfriend of pulling the trigger.
That was his girlfriend. They got into an argument, when ensued into a physical fight. A gun was produced, and she was shot.
Investigators say no one else was inside the unit where they think the suspect lived alone.
I don't think, from the evidence inside, I don't think she was living at this location.
Police think this woman likely was shot one time only. The names of both the suspect and the victim have not yet been released. We're reporting live from DeKalb County Police Headquarters. I'm Mark Teichman for Good Day.
There's a plea from a humanitarian group to end the violence in Syria. Doctors Without Borders wants Russia and the Syrian government to stop bombing in Aleppo so it can reach the wounded. It says there are only 35 doctors serving a population of 275,000 people. Meantime, we're seeing another young face of the conflict. Take a look at this. This 4-year-old girl crying and calling for her father after she was injured in a mortar strike. They were eventually reunited. And here's a haunting video of the devastation in that city of Aleppo. The images coming from a drone shows homes and other buildings reduced to rubble by airstrikes and bombings. More than 200 people have been killed since the latest offensive began only 3 weeks ago.
Haitians are beginning the rebuilding process after Hurricane Matthew. As floodwaters begin to recede, the task now is to provide those homeless with food, water, shelter and basic infrastructure.
During the earthquake, our house came down. The authorities came by, took our names. They said they would do this and that, but they never came back. So we have to take matters into our own hands and do what we've got to do.
The town of Jeremy was one of the worst hit. Its 42,000 residents are lacking basic aid. Some children are already showing symptoms of cholera.
Every family are very poor. They have no water, they have no food.
The international community is providing supplies in Haiti's hour of need. Among France's contribution, 2 water purification systems, cholera control kits, 13 tons of emergency relief items, and 6 water sanitation units. More than 20 tons of food and medical supplies, including hygiene kits, arrived in the capital Port-au-Prince on Tuesday from Colombia. The EU is also one of Haiti's biggest donors. This week, Europe announced it would send an extra 1.5 million euros in emergency assistance, while the US has also pledged to send aid. The UN has launched an emergency appeal for around 110 million euros in aid to help prevent famine over the next 3 months. It says that just under 1.5 million people are in need of assistance.
And some demolition experts have some explaining to do after this. So that was the attempt to implode the Broadway Bridge in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Keyword there being attempt. Usually after the charges go off, a bridge would be falling into the water. The thousands of people watching would be cheering, posted it on Instagram. But the Broadway Bridge didn't want to give up.
So that scene that you saw was 5 hours after the blast, when crews finally attached a cable and pulled the span into the Arkansas River. The whole incident spawned the hashtag Broadway Bridge Strong.
Twitter and the internet was loving it all throughout the day.